Well, my editing skills are crap. Did I turn the mic on? I did. Okay, but can the same thing be said of what is this called? Mad Max Fury Road. Stick around and find out. All right. Hey, I'm Peter Franson from ChristianGeekCenter.com and Spirit Play Productions here with an uncut review of I want to say Max Payne, but it's not. It's Mad Max Fury Road. Okay, now I haven't seen any of the original. No, that's not true. I've actually seen maybe all three of them, but my memories of them are so distant. I watched the original in college as part of a film class, and the others I think I just kind of saw the edited TV versions, throughout childhood, bits and pieces here and there. So I don't think of myself as having properly seen any of those movies. But I was really looking forward to this one because I'm a big fan of post-apocalyptia, and the trailers for this looked really awesome. So let's give you the synopsis first. The IMDb synopsis says, in a stark desert landscape where humanity is broken, two rebels just might be able to restore order. Max, a man of action and of few words, and Furiosa, a woman of action who is looking to make it back to her childhood homeland. So basically, now I should first say before anything else that I went to the theater and I bought the ticket. I told the lady what I wanted. She said, okay, she gave me the ticket, goes in. Guy says, I can't even remember what he said. He might have even, I don't know, but he said, okay, theater 9's going to be da-da-da-da-da. Well, I sit in there, and me and another guy at the same time realized, after all the previews were done, that we were watching the very beginning of Avengers Age of Ultron. And so we both, almost at the same time, bolted up, went out to the lobby, said, hey, where's the 1020 of Max Payne, Fury Road? Both movies were starting at the same time. We bolted over to the right theater. I think I only missed the first, maybe 30 seconds. I walked in, and the first thing I heard was Max kind of doing a voiceover about, this is a post-apocalyptic world, and things are really bad. And he didn't say that, but it was just the very basic setup, like when the bombs went off and everything got blown to whatever, it was something like that. I don't even know if he said bombs, but anyway, I was in such a mess and ticked off because I was, started out in the wrong theater. So I missed some of the setup at the very beginning, but I was there. I think I probably only missed about 30 seconds. So if that cancels out my whole review in your mind, there's nothing I can do about that. I have things to do. So I thought about sticking around and saying, hey, would it be cool if I just stick around till the beginning of the next showing, watch the first 2 minutes because I missed that because you guys screwed up. But I was like, I don't have the time. I got life to live. And, these reviews are what they are, and you're either going to find them interesting and useful or you're not. So there you go. So anyway, but from what I could tell, it's just a very basic setup. They didn't go into what caused the apocalypse and stuff, and I think that's kind of true of the older movies as well. But what you've got is this civilization that's living in kind of this desert climate, possibly in Australia. There's a number of Australian accents and some kind of British offshoots, accents. Anyway, so it's this horrible society. It's kind of like a big town, city kind of community run by one older dude, who bosses everybody around, and every once in a while when he feels like giving glory to himself, he dumps a bunch of water on them. Water is extremely scarce, and so the masses are like, oh, water, and so he basically is just totally corrupt, and every once in a while he'll take his band of, shirtless, body painted men out to go and, I don't know, rape and pillage or something. I mean, this movie it's more of an experience than it is a story. I mean, there's definitely a story, but it's like there's no exposition that is fed to you, really. There's almost no exposition in the movie. You're just kind of figuring out what's going on, what the state of the world is, what these different expressions that characters are using mean, and in the context that they're using them in. You're just, for a while, you're just like, what are they talking about? This is crazy. But as time passes, you begin to piece together, oh, that expression has something to do with this belief in reincarnation that they have, that if they die in glorious, car chase combat, then they'll be reborn or something like that, So you're just kind of experiencing and discovering this world, and I'm sure that one viewing, well, from my experience anyway, one viewing is not near enough to figure out what everything means. But that doesn't mean that you're lost and confused about, what the story is, what people want, what motivates them. All those things I found to be very clear. It's just the trappings of the world. And I can only imagine that upon further viewings, the motivations of characters will become more rich as you begin to pay more attention and kind of understand a little bit more what the different things about this culture and their beliefs all really mean. Anyway, let's see here. Most of this movie is a post-apocalyptic car chase through the desert with these, if you haven't seen the Mad Max movies, they've got these beat up vehicles from different time periods, and they put like big metal spikes on them and like human skulls and all kinds of junk and paraphernalia and stuff and the dressing, like what people are wearing, what's all over their cars, all of it is kind of saying something about who these people are, what they value, what motivates them. And it's all absolutely fascinating and disturbing. This is a very dark world. This is a world where, like, sin is just set loose. A while back I did a video on the idea that I think Scripture teaches that hell is not a torture chamber, but it's more akin to a prison colony, and that there will be, although God will orchestrate things there so that no one experiences any more suffering at all than they are appropriately due according to justice, that it will be a place where sin is kind of allowed to just kind of do its thing, and people are allowed to do their thing, live the way they want to live, and that's, I can almost imagine this place as being kind of an example or like a metaphor that a person could use to describe what maybe hell will be like. It's because this is just this planet where sin and evil and selfishness are just kind of set loose. Now, not everyone in there is selfish and self-serving and stuff like that. There are definitely some redeemable or redeeming characteristics and characters, as it were. But everybody is basically motivated first and foremost by survival, and they all have that in common. But beyond that, there are different things clearly that motivate them. Some are motivated for they just want hope in their lives. They want a life better than the one they have. Some desperately want significance, and they're trying to create their own significance with their surroundings and with the elements of their lives that they can control. Some of them are looking for acceptance from others. Did I say redemption? Some of them are looking for redemption for past misdeeds. So it's all these characters, despite the fact that they're not like talking all about their pasts, and you just know from the way that they behave what makes them tick and what motivates them. And so anyway, it's very character driven in that regard. Let's see here. The world I found fascinating. The customs, religious beliefs. There's clearly like this book, I'm sure, that's been written about what the whole world is, what their religious beliefs are of these little, pocket sects of whatever these religions are, but they don't really bring that out like in dialogue. You're just kind of like figuring it out, and it's just fascinating. This is, I mentioned that this is a place where like just sin is set loose. One of the ways that I think that kind of represents itself is that people are just kind of doing what they want to do, and they are trying to create these images for themselves. Like this one guy is just like, I am the scales of justice, and he's like, because he just got blinded, and so he's like put this blindfold on him, and he's shooting his guns, and he's blind and stuff, so he's trying to create this image for himself. And then also, along with the whole entourage of like the evil guys that are driving around in the desert, they've got this huge truck that is like almost exclusively dedicated to holding this massive collection of huge speakers, and then there's a dude strapped to the front playing an electric guitar and just rocking out, as if part of what the big head honcho in charge wants to create for himself is this sense of the theatric. Like, he doesn't want to just go out into battle, he wants his frickin' theme song playing while he's going out there, So it's just a world of people that seem to be searching for significance and validation and dominance, and and in this world, that guitar guy makes sense to me, because like I said, that makes sense to me, that in a world where people are just like totally disturbed, totally, selfish, and just totally interested in kind of creating an image for themselves, I can see somebody, if he has the resources, just having a guy around to just do that. I mean, it's so bizarre, but that's to me an example of just what sin could look like if it's just completely set loose. Anyway, let's talk about the cast and the performances a little bit. We've got Tom Hardy, who plays Max. He doesn't have a lot to work with in terms of the script here. He, as the synopsis said, is kind of the strong, silent type. Maybe a little too silent for my tastes. I would have liked just a little bit more of... I don't know if I wanted more words from him necessarily. I wanted to know a little bit more about what made him tick. Oddly enough, of all the characters, I understood his motivation the least. There's these series of flashbacks that he experiences. I think they're flashbacks. This vision of like a child who maybe died or maybe was trying to kill him. It's really weird. Throughout the movie, there are these flashes that he has, dreams or whatever they are. And that never paid off. Now, I suppose it's possible that in those 30 seconds that I missed, there was an opening sequence where all of that would make sense if I saw it. So I'm not ready to pronounce judgment on that. But from my experience, what I experienced today, I felt like, wow, there was no payoff. I wanted to understand kind of what he was seeking redemption from, because I sensed that he was interested in redemption, at least to some degree. Now, what Tom Hardy did bring to the performance was these little subtleties every now and then that made me wonder about the man that Max used to be. Obviously he's been through hell in some sense, and he's just kind of like got this hardened, stoic, emotional, deadline, flatline, kind of exterior that he always has. But there are these little kind of nuances that just make me wonder, who was he before he was shattered? Because at some point, he had to have been. You just get the sense that he was shattered by something. Just the way he reacts to certain things too. I mean, at the very beginning of the movie, he is in some crazy circumstances that you're just like, and then he'll shout something out, and you're just like, why does he care about that right now? Doesn't he see what state he's in and what's happening to him right now and what could happen at any second? And he's shouting and he's concerned about something else entirely. So you just get the sense, this guy has just gone over the deep end in some way. So the term mad at the front of his name in terms of like madness, insanity, is appropriate, even though it's kind of this quiet, strange madness at times that most of the time, hides itself, and he looks like just kind of a quiet, strong guy, But anyway, I hope that they'll make another one of these. I kind of am pessimistic. I'm like, this movie was too awesome for them to make a sequel. It was too creative and interesting and didn't have enough CGI for them to make a sequel. So I can't imagine that a sequel will be made. Oh, I can imagine it, but anyway, I would love for a sequel of this movie to be made and for there to be more payoff to what was going on with Max's character. Unless, of course, there was just more setup and I would understand it more if I would have seen those first 30 seconds or whatever it was that I missed. Let's see here. What else? Oh, yeah, Nicholas Hoult. You might recognize this guy. He played Beast in the X-Men Origins movie and also the other X-Men Days of Future Past. And he was one of the savages, one of the main savages that you kind of get to know through the movie. And really, he's kind of like an innocent in the midst of these savages, even though he himself is kind of a savage as well. And he becomes a character that you really empathize with. I really enjoyed his performance because he brought this crazy kind of insanity to it, but at the same time, this tenderness, this naivete that I really just made him endearing to me. And then you had Hugh Keys Byrne. I'm not sure if that's how you say his name. I know him as freaking Grunchlick from Farscape. So there was definitely evidence that this was filmed in Australia, based on Australia, because it had two actors from Farscape. Grunchlick from Farscape plays the big bad guy, the ruler of the whole city, whatever. And then I didn't scroll down far enough to find her name, but the old woman in Farscape from like season, end of season 3 and then season 4. She's one of the main old women characters in this movie. I was like, that's the old woman, that's Grunchlick. It was really cool. So Farscape fans, keep sharp. Maybe there's some more, Farscape actors I've missed. So I can't wait to watch it again. Okay, stunts and visuals. This is this is a rare movie in that CGI is rare. When it appeared, it was solid, but it wasn't, it wasn't like to my eye. I'm cursed with an eye that picks out CGI, so it wasn't, to my knowledge, indistinguishable from reality. Like there was a little beetle that was walking on one of the characters' hands for a little bit, and I did ask myself at the beginning, I was like, is that real? No, it's fake. It's fake, And then there was let's see, which made what they did with the beetle in that scene less interesting to me. They did something with it that an actor would not want to do if it was a real beetle. And the fact that I knew it was CGI, it kind of made the moment, this little moment they had with this beetle, kind of like, it didn't have impact on me. If it was a real beetle, I would have been like, whoa, Let's see here. There is every once in a while a green screen background that just looks a little fake. It's like, that's something fishy going on in the background there. And oddly enough, it's usually in the still shots. In the action shots, if they use green screen, it's got to be rare, and I didn't really notice it when it appeared. The practical stunts and the practical effects in this movie dominate the movie. And they make me believe that this world exists. I mean, I get taken personally out of movies so often, and I have to just kind of eventually say, Pater, just try not to think about the CGI. But I didn't have to do that hardly at all in this movie. And there were so many different vehicles and costumes and people and props, and and it was all like 96% practical to my eye. And so I was just kind of like fascinated by this world. It was a world that I really believed was out there somewhere, that the film crew just visited a while to make this movie, and then they left, and that world is still out there persisting somewhere. I mean, I love a movie that can do that for me. So that was a wonderful experience in that regard. Let's see, the soundtrack is not super memorable. They do sometimes tie in the soundtrack with what's going on with that guitar guy, which is kind of interesting and cool. The dialogue is hard to decipher at times, especially at the beginning and when they're shouting over like vehicles and stuff like that, and they're using these terms and phrases that are unique to this world's culture, and so already you're trying to figure out what's going on. Add to that phrases you're not expecting to keep an ear out for, and I didn't even know what people are saying. So like when this comes out on Blu-ray, like subtitles alone will be like a cool special feature, because I'll be able to, I think, dig into this world just a little bit more by popping on the subtitles and understanding clearly what everybody is saying there. On the other hand, ADR, and that's when actors come in after the movie's been filmed, and they get in a sound booth and they are watching the screen, and they are re-recording the lines that their character says because there was maybe background noise or something like that on the set or location where they filmed that scene, and so they want to isolate the dialogue and they re-record it. There's some scenes where it's just really obvious. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't, like somebody is like muttering and yet you see wind blowing and other stuff going on, and you're just like, it doesn't fit what the actor's doing in the performance on screen, and it doesn't make sense that anybody would be able to hear what they're saying with all the stuff that's going on in the scene, So, that was a little bit disappointing. Not a big deal though. So let's talk about relevance. Is there anything after watching this movie that might, cause you to think about or talk about worthwhile spiritual or philosophical issues? Well, I think maybe if you're looking to talk about or think about those kinds of things, as I said before, significance is a huge deal. Are we defined by our status in the culture that we're in, or just like the workplace or whatever environment we find ourselves in? Is that how we define ourselves, or do we define ourselves by just pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps and just naming ourselves things and just saying, I am this, And I think that we often find ourselves doing both of those things, looking for status among those that are around us, and then also just kind of like saying little mantras to ourselves, I am this, I am special, I am blah, 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 and stuff like that, that are not based on any kind of particular grounded truth. They're just kind of things we want to believe about ourselves, and so we try to convince ourselves that those things are true, whether they are or not. And then let's see here. There's a desire for redemption on the part of Furiosa, played by Charlize. Is it Theron? I don't know. Theron. And there's also hinted at in Max's backstory a desire for redemption, but again, that doesn't really come to the surface quite as much as I would have liked. There's a moment where like one character, they're in the midst of like crap has hit the fan, and she's doing some kind of thing with her hands and closing her eyes and muttering and stuff, and someone asks her, what are you doing? She says, I'm praying. Praying to who? She said, whoever might be listening, yeah, that's a forsaken place to be. or at least you feel forsaken in that kind of setting. This is a world that needs Jesus. That's what I would think of when I look at this. I'm like, this is a world that needs Jesus. And really, it's our world without all the masks that we wear, because we want to survive. A primary motive in this movie is survival. Everyone just wants to live, and at the end of the day, we all see death coming, and that is a huge concern. We either live in denial of it, or we live in fear of it. Even as a believer, there's things about the process of death, and there's some uncertainties after death that I have to wrestle with, So we want to survive, we want significance, we want hope, and we want redemption. And this is a world where, like, all the pretense of us saying, oh, no, I'm not really concerned about status, I'm not really concerned, I'm totally at peace with who I am and stuff, I think we can kind of put those things up, and yeah, we want to be fighting the good fight and trying to base our identity and our significance and all those kinds of things on the right things. But at the end of the day, I think we all struggle with those issues a lot more than we're willing to admit, even to ourselves. And this is a world where all those struggles for hope, significance, identity, redemption, they are just cut loose, and they are right there on the surface. And so in that regard, I think that it could really stimulate conversation. However, there's so much going on with the action and the spectacle and the intensity of, like, the violence, and like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Oh no, I was like, my jaw was dropped, and I was like contorting in my seat a couple times. It was just so, like, tangible to me that I wasn't often thinking about some of those deeper issues because I was so in the moment. Like I said, about 75 to 80% of this movie is a car chase. They slow down just long enough to kind of give you time to breathe and remind you of some things that they want to say about the characters that they can't do in the middle of a car chase. Although you would be surprised how much character motivation and tenderness and these deeper kind of emotional subplots they could still be carrying through in the middle of a huge car chase through the desert. Holy cow. Anyway, if I were a time traveler and going back in time to talk to myself, I would say, Pater, it's worth your money. Go see it in the theater. It's not without flaws. It's not like, it's not like you have no idea how this movie could be improved. And I save that, I save my tens for that kind of movie, a movie that I'm just like, this is a cinematic achievement. And I have no idea how it could be made better. I save that, I save tens for those kinds of movies. Let's see here. Or how my experience could be improved, I should say. But yeah, see this in the theater, Pater. It's totally worth your money. In fact, this made me want to go and catch up, as it were, on the Mad Max movies that I barely remember and really haven't properly seen. Just because I want to, I know that the effects, the action, all that kind of stuff, the budget is, it's just not going to be the same movie. But just for the world alone, I would love to visit, spend more time in a world like this, and see the different customs and beliefs and motivations, that might be found in those earlier movies that I didn't appreciate the last time. They just kind of were on and off my mind. This one's rated R for intense sequences of violence throughout and for disturbing images. I would also add there's partial nudity there, but nudity that you could get away with in a PG-13 movie. It's very brief. Final score. I give this a quality score of 9.0 out of 10 and a relevant score of 7.0 out of 10. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you like this video and want to share it with people and want more videos like this. And then, what else? This thing. Go to Christian Geek Central. Boom! Oh, crap, man! I broke the thing on my other side. Christian Geek, is my thumb coming and everything? ChristianGeekCentral.com, and join a bunch of other folks there as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.